Hello, Carl and Louisa Munson here on The Moment on New Reality TV. I'm Carl, by the way.
Yeah, I'm Louisa, just by process of elimination.
Sure, you've definitely pushed me off the screen.
Yeah, you do look a bit off screen now.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yes, okay, all right.
Maybe our camera's in a bit too.
She said to me, I needed some space. And I was thinking, oh my God. Oh, okay, just on the screen. Right, okay. How are you?
We do look a bit wonky today, don't we?
Speak for yourself. I don't know what that is on my arm. On my bicep there, anyway. It's all that bleach we've been using in the house.
Yeah,
right, good to be here. It's a weird old day in Portugal, I have to say. I've been moaning, haven't I, about being cold and damp.
Carl's a bit moany today, which is interesting because we've got a really, I think, a story of compassion coming up in today's show. We're
going to light us up and warm
the
cockles
and so
of
I'm
our
hoping
hearts.
that Carl gets really warmed up because he absolutely loves animals, and we've got an amazing guest here today. We've got Mandy.
No pressure,
Ratzlaff.
Mandy. Right, okay,
joining us. She's a friend of Amy Doherty from the show The Eyes Have It.
Yes.
And yeah, so she said, you've got to speak to my friend Mandy, who's done something really quite heroic. So
any friend of Amy's is a friend of ours, and here she is, Mandy Ratzlaff.
Hi,
hello,
Mandy. How are you?
Hi, how are you? And,
a bit cold and damp. A bit cold and damp, as you may have heard.
Not us here. We're very warm and sunny.
Oh, don't say that. That's how it's meant to be here in Portugal. Now, there is a connection between Portugal and where you're speaking to us from. You're in Mozambique, aren't you?
That's right. So it's an ex-colony, or annex, I should say, of Mozambique.
Right.
And then 1974, they had a civil war here.
Wow, yeah.
And it was 16 years of civil war. But they have very close ties with Portugal, and of course it's a Portuguese-speaking country. So
wow. Does that mean you speak the occasional bit of Portuguese over there?
I am so rubbish at Portuguese.
Me too.
You're in good company. Yeah. Don't worry, Mandy.
You're fine with us then. Wow, we do our best, but yeah, it's not an easy language to learn.
No, and I've been told not to give up my day job because I'll never be a Portuguese speaker. So I have been told.
Oh, that's not very encouraging, is it? You have other skills, however, don't you? And we're going to hear about you and your horses today. Amy said you should speak to Mandy, so that was good enough for us.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing over there and this special significance that Amy thought we should know about?
Well, I think it's probably a bit of the history because we were farmers in Zimbabwe, and a lot of people do have ties with Zimbabwe, so it's quite a well-known country. But in 2001, our president at the time, Robert Mugabe, there was a lot of political unrest, and then he decided that he was going to invade commercial farms, not only commercial farms, but the subsidiaries of commercial farms as well. So we were some of the first. We were the first 45 farms trashed and looted. And honestly, you were so unprepared for it. To just give you an example, I mean, you wake up in the morning and there's, 400 people outside your gate telling you that this is not your land anymore.
Good heavens.
And that's, So what happened with us and most farming families, you only had a few hours to get off your farm, and your big livestock were left behind. You could throw in a dog and a cat and the kids, but you can imagine, so, if you had horses or, most kids on farms had all sorts of things, warthogs and little buck and that kind of thing. So the trauma of leaving, anyway, once we, our area, which was badly affected, we were allowed back on the farms 12 weeks later. And in our case, our 6 horses were still around. But our neighbor, he had a lot of horses. He actually bred horses. Some of his were not in good shape. But what we did was we managed to get our 6 horses off, and then we managed to get Shah's horses, and we moved to another part of the area, which was sort of not being invaded at the time. And that's how we collected these horses. We ended up with about 200 or more horses that were rescued from farms, because in the end, most of the farms were taken over.
Good heavens.
And we ended up with these horses. But my husband was absolutely sure, because there was an election coming up, and my husband was absolutely sure that Mugabe would lose the election and Morgan Tsvangirai would win the election, and we'd all go back to, you know, what we had been doing before. But unfortunately, Mugabe won the election, and so, you know, people had to leave the country. In our case, eventually, we had to cross the border after 6 evictions, and we crossed with 104 horses into Mozambique, and that's where I met Amy.
This is incredible. So, not only did you have clearly and understandably a great concern for your own safety, and did you say 6 evictions? You were moved 6 times.
Yeah, moving. Right. Yes.
And then not only your own safety and your family, but the safety of over 100 horses, which must have been, I mean, it's not, you know, it's one thing, isn't it, to leave under the cover of darkness as a family with a vehicle, but it's difficult to hide more than 100 horses or not be spotted doing such a thing. Could you tell us more about that? It just sounds absolutely extraordinary, and your clearly your great love of these creatures.
Well, my husband is really passionate about horses. He comes from a long line of horse lovers. And I think the thing you have to understand is, you know, I think Patrick thought that we would be going back to the farm.
Right. Yes.
And the circumstances that happened with Mugabe winning that election again, we had already crossed a line. We had taken custody of animals that had, you know, belonged to other farmers who had left the country. So we were already in a situation where, you know, these horses couldn't fend for themselves. So we were, you know,
you felt like you had no choice.
We had no choice but to, you know, to look after them.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's when we made decisions. After our 6th eviction, we were already in the Vumba Mountains, which is on the border of Mozambique. And Mozambique had just come out of a civil war, so it was looked at a place that was going to, you know, investment was going to start going into it. So it seemed a good choice at the time. And being the closest border, you know, we were able to truck the horses over the border. It was difficult because what Mugabe had done, he banned the export of farm equipment, livestock, etc. So we did have some challenges, but horses actually fall under domestic animals. So with the help of the SPCA and a lawyer, they didn't actually have any certified sort of paperwork that could stop these horses going across. So, you know, we managed to track them all across into Mozambique. Eventually, it took us quite a while to get them all, you know, the trucks, they would turn them back, but, you know, we eventually got them all over.
And is that what you had to do? You were moving them in truckloads at a time, were you, from one place to another?
Yeah. We were going to ride them over the border, but the Zimbabwean army were already sort of all around the places that we might have been able to ride through, because at that stage the Zimbabweans were crossing the borders into Mozambique to try and buy essential items that they couldn't, you know, with the inflation of Zimbabwe and what was happening. And so the army were in wait for them, you know, so we did do a bit of a recce, but we decided it would just be too dangerous.
Good heavens.
So we took the other route.
Yeah, my goodness, I just can't imagine what that must have been like. Like, so you said that first happened in 2001 when you had sort of pitchforks at your front door. Oh.
We seem to have a little bit of a difficulty with Mandy's connection there. Let's just go to some of the greetings this morning. Hello, everyone. And we hope we'll be able to reconnect with Mandy in just a moment.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone from Mother Mulberry's Tea Club. Hugh is out on the vines, and I drank some of the fruit of those vines last night. The rosé was superb.
Oh,
Thank
really?
you, Hugh. It was
Oh,
very good.
very
Hugh's
nice.
own. Up on the vines in the sunshine, Mother Mulberry's Tea Club. Africa is such a place of rich stories and history, and Zimbabwe has some amazing ruins from ancient. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
I
I mean,
didn't know that.
I'm a real novice. I've got no idea really about what's happened in Africa at all.
Right.
Really sort of like disconnected, because it's not on my doorstep, is it? And I've no idea about the rich stories.
We seem to have lost Mandy altogether with the connection in Mozambique. So we'll keep an eye on backstage and look forward to her rejoining us.
I cannot imagine how terrifying that must be to go through that kind of story. And I'm guessing, you know, there's a sort of rich seam of parallels around the world in loads of different places right now where people appear to be displaced and fear, you know, like the disruption of homes. Like I was thinking about it this morning, actually, because we've got a Venus retrograde going on. Sorry to always link everything back to astrology, but we've got a Venus retrograde at the moment. And this particular retrograde is pulling back on patterns that were happening to us April time of 2017.
Oh, okay.
And actually,
that's when we fled the UK, wasn't
yes,
it? I mean,
is. That's the time of our great displacement.
We can't claim in any way to have faced circumstances as difficult and challenging as Mandy's here. And I'm hoping to find out more, because the animal connection as well.
Yes.
We left with 2 kids and a camper van full of stuff, which seemed quite daring. But can you imagine over 100 horses?
We rehoused our 2 cats, didn't we? Because we
did,
because we thought we couldn't cope with moving them.
And then we rehomed some more creatures when we got here, didn't we? They kept turning up on our doorstep, which is a thing that happens here. Good morning to you, Deb, as well. Nice to see you. Good to have your company this morning. Well, we were hoping to talk to Mandy over there. Well, you can find out more for yourself at if you search Mozambique Horse Safari, which suggests a happy ending to this adventure.
There is definitely a happy ending.
And I wanted to find out more about the horse and animal connection and the healing aspect of this, because of course the I was going to call them healing properties. That's more of a description of a herb, isn't it? Or a medicinal compound of some sort. But the healing relationship between humans and horses. And I wonder what part that would have played in this particular story. But if we can't speak to Mandy, we won't find out. Not for the moment, anyway. Being an empath, a feeling of the pain around the world. Absolutely, there, Deb. And what does that say? Nisna fire. Okay, I'm not sure what that means there, Mother Mulberry's.
And outconning a con man in 2017 for me.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, Mandy, I think, is back now and joining us.
So I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there.
No, it was fine.
I'm so sorry. I really don't
know.
No
need to worry at all.
Yeah, it's really not a problem. We were just having a chat here and hanging out with some of our friends in the audience, and I was wondering about the healing aspect. You know, the increasingly known connection between horses and humans, and the healing connection between us, our species. Is that part of this story and journey with you?
Well, I think, you know, we might have saved these horses, but in the end, I think they saved us.
Wow.
Because, you know,
oh God,
has that choked you up? Yeah. You've got to go in here, Mandy, saying that.
But, you know, if you go through these things, I guess with any animal, and you know what they have been through, they've been through a lot, and so have we. But they bring you a lot of joy, and the hurdles that you sort of jump over. I mean, horses are very sensitive to situations, and you know, in the end, with all these horses, we started a horse safari in Vilanculo, which was not easy, definitely at the time, which was 2008. But we've built up this business with them, and we're getting older, and a lot of them are getting older. So it's been a journey for all of us.
Wow, amazing. So please tell us more about that, the safari opportunity and what you've built there out of this horrible challenge and difficulty.
Yes, well, you know, we're not the only ones that have gone through this kind of thing. I mean, a lot of Zimbabwean farmers have faced terrible challenges with you know, animals. Yeah. And I just to tell you, we've just had a friend of ours, Ben Fries, who had a terrible eviction from his farm. They were tortured and
Yeah.
A
Right.
really horrible experience. And he
Yeah.
he took Mugabe to court very bravely, but they lost their farm. But he rode his horse from Zimbabwe to Windhoek, where, the Court of Appeal was. And
Right.
although he won the case, it wasn't, he actually didn't, because the SADC leaders, Mugabe sort of put it to bed.
Yeah.
But he's just been here, and we're talking about the love you have for these animals, and
Yes.
you'll do anything for them, and they will do anything for you. So
And is that how it's occurred then? That's the sort of the reciprocal spiritual connection between you and the animals. They know what
Yeah.
you've been through, and now they're looking after you to some extent.
well, some of them are a bit naughty at times, but
I love hearing about naughty animals.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to.
But I think bringing them to, the coastal, we were warned that horses on the beach, first of all, the wind and the waves, it can have an effect on them. And
Wow.
but anyway, when we took the first horses down, it was like they were on holiday. They just all flopped on their knees and rolled around in the sea.
Oh my God.
So we didn't have any of those sort of issues that other people had warned us about. But we've had lots of tragedy with them. In 2010, we lost half the herd with a plant poisoning called Crotalaria duro. And it
no.
was apparently brought in by the Portuguese to fix nitrogen in the 40s, 50s, I guess.
Really, and it
And
proved
it's-
to be a toxic plant.
Very, to horses. There are no survivors. There's a chemical reaction which affects the lungs, so they actually die of emphysema.
Oh.
But it took quite a while for us to, for us to find out what it was. That, there were lots of tests and autopsies, but we lost some
Yeah.
of our most beloved horses.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
and-
That's, wow.
Yes.
I don't know much about horses, Mandy. Forgive me. How long? What lifespan do you have with your horses? Do you have some of your original 104
Oh,
horses
yes.
still with you?
Yes, we do. Yes. And some are well into their 20s, almost 30. We've only got 16 really of the original 104 that we brought across. But then we have a whole bunch of other rescues as well. And so at the present stage now, we have 45 horses.
Do
in
you?
Mankulo.
That is a massive operation, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's huge.
Looking after 40. What's a typical day like at your stables and where you are?
Well, in Mozambique, we have a lot of employees, workers. Before we came to Chimoyo, there was very little work for the local population. So we have to, since the poisoning, we have to cut our grass. So we have about 30 women or more cutting grass for us. And that's been an amazing thing for them because women here, I guess they've had to rely on husbands, mainly errant husbands as well. And so it's given them some financial security. And when we first came into Vilanculo and Chibweni, it wasn't as populated as it is now, or commercial. And so we employ a lot of people to help us look after these horses. And so, it works very well.
Sounds like it. So it's an extraordinary operation there, with so many people working and such a big collection of horses, or a herd, I suppose you would call them, right? What are the experiences that are available if people come and to enjoy one of your safaris?
So we do 7-night, 8-day safaris where international guests come and they ride with us for a week. And then we do day rides for the different hotels that might just have guests that just want to come and do a short beach ride. Our ocean swims are very popular, where you get on the horse's bareback, because we have lovely warm water. So it's not a challenge for anybody. The
You couldn't do
horses
that.
love
Hold on
it
a
and
minute. You can
Carl's
go.
just
You
looking
can
for a
go.
new place to live, actually.
I am so tired of this weather here and the cold and the damp. And I don't like to moan, but I will. And I'm thinking, where can I go and live where it's nice and hot? I mean, I could go riding bareback on a horse, and the horse goes swimming, and I go swimming with it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
And we have 8 horses on Benguera Island. But sadly, tourism at the moment is very down. There was a dispute over the recent elections. And so unfortunately, Maputo had a lot of protests and problems, and the embassies took fright. So it's been a dismal time for tourism. I
Sorry
don't
to hear
lie.
that.
And
Right.
we're really hoping it picks up. The thing is also, if it was just Pat and I, it's not such a problem. But when you are also looking after, your horses, and then you have all your workers that depend
Right.
entirely on you. And it was the same in Zimbabwe. When we crossed over into Mozambique, we took most of our farm workers with us.
Did you?
Yeah, well, there was just nothing for them. And it's a big responsibility, to look after all these people, but they depend entirely on you.
Yeah.
And with our Zimbabwean workers, you must remember that the currency in Zimbabwe at the time, with the inflation, it was necessary for them to sort of come over, because they learned, they were able to work and be paid in a currency that had some value.
Right.
And then as soon as Zimbabwe took on the US dollar, they were able to go back home, because, Zimbabweans miss their homes.
Of course.
And now with our Mozambicans as well, it's an awful experience if you feel, that because you need the tourists, and it's been quite a while now, and you sort of worry about having to lay people off and that kind of thing. So, yeah. So there's always a few problems to contend
Mandy, you're
with.
incredible. You and Pat are absolutely incredible. I think Mrs. M's got a question for you.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Certainly got more.
And I know we're running out of time, because we've only got another 7 minutes for this show. I'm wondering, like, how you kept going, because there must have been many dark moments, and what thoughts were going on. Like, did you have some kind of process? Like, some people go to faith, some people, I don't know, like they feel into their hearts and they know what to do. What was it for you that kept you and Pat going at such a bleak time?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that, but I think when you're in the moment, you just have to get on with it. I know a lot of Zimbabweans, there was never such a thing as therapy or sort of somebody coming to help you through your dark moments. Yeah. I mean, if you had faith, that was something like I was just telling you about Ben Freeth. He has wonderful faith, which has got him through his really, what happened to him was just horrific. But you plod through it. And I think any Zimbabwean who's been through sort of, what we've been through, you forget the really bad times, and it's the goodness that comes out of these situations, and the kindness of people, or the people that you meet along the way. And I think that's what pushes you through. Also, Patrick's a bit mental, I must tell you.
That helps.
That helps. Yeah.
And I noticed you've also written about your whole story. It's called 104 Horses, like literally written out, not the 104, but like 104 horses. When did you release that book?
Well, it came out in 2013, and surprisingly, people are still reading it. And it's being read a lot now, because Ramaphosa in South Africa has declared that they will take land without compensation, which has worried a lot of South Africans. So both Ben and I have had a lot of people asking us how they would get through the situation if it happened. But it's different. I don't know whether South Africa would go ahead with that kind of thing. I would hope not. But so the book now, there's been a big demand for the book, because obviously it relates our experience of what happened to us. The reason the book was written was that we had a guest who was a journalist. I think she was for the Guardian. And she came out here and she was blown away with our story. I mean, we just thought it was normal, you know.
Not really. I don't know
life.
anyone that's ever taken on 104 horses. It's incredible.
But she thought this was amazing. And so she went back and she wrote this massive piece in The Guardian. And Pat and I didn't have Wi-Fi then or anything like that. And a lot of people phoned us and said, listen, you know, you're in The Guardian in UK. And eventually somebody brought a copy and she'd written this most amazing thing. And that caught the eye of a guy called Patrick Walsh, who decided that we should write a book. And I did blog, you know, I did a lot of blogs through our journey. So anyway, the book materialized. But
It sounds like it should be a movie.
So is it a memoir that has become an inspirational work for other people? Is that how it's panned out?
I think, you know, people do read it and they relate to sort of what we went through. Some people don't, of course. They think you're absolutely crazy, and you know, they don't mind telling you that either in whatever form, if it's a review or whatever. But you know, I think when a situation happens, you know, you just do what is best for you. And in our case, you know, 100 and 200 horses couldn't look after themselves, and the things that some of these people did to animals, it was just absolutely horrific. I mean, you know, hanging a beloved dog on a fence, you know, shooting your cat, throwing petrol over a horse. I mean, you know, it was horrible things that happened to farming families during.
Well, thank goodness you were there to rescue these animals. I mean, I was going to ask you. I mean, it's just a kind of silly question in a way, but I'm curious to know what you think of it. And I was going to, you know, ask you when are these politicians going to get out the way and let people live their lives? And I mean, furthermore, you seem, you know, you keep going, don't you? In the face of the things you've told us that have happened to you and around you. I mean, it sounds like you're very pragmatic. It's like, well, of course we continue. We just have to. But is there more to it than that? Or are you just a deeply pragmatic, practical person who just rolls up your sleeves and gets on with it? And being a bit mental, as you put it, in Pat's case, that's the secret. That's the recipe.
Well, in some days I feel like taking a Xanax or something. But no,
I mean, that says a lot as well. As like sometimes you feel like taking a little bit of you know, some sort of mood suppressant, but you don't. It would appear.
No, but we have just been going through a tough time with this. You know, these recent politics. It hasn't been good for us or anybody in the tourist industry, and it's caused a lot of unrest, you know, amongst our workers, amongst everybody. So it's a very unsettled time. Although it's quiet at the moment, the damage has already been done, and we just hope that it'll all settle down, and
I hope so.
And we'll go back to do what we do best.
Well, we wish you luck.
Yeah.
Mandy, we have to go,
Thank you.
unfortunately. But
And
thank you
that's
so much.
wonderful.
And if anyone comes to you through this, I will be so glad and grateful that in some way they're helping out.
Deb was saying
what's
it's on
going
her
on.
bucket list of things to do, to go to South Africa and be with all the
Well,
animals.
Mozambique horse safari, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very humbled you wanted to chat.
Thank you so much for
Mandy.
joining
Thank
us
you very
today.
Thank you so
much.
much. All right, all the
And
best.
it was lovely talk. All the best to you too.
Lots of love
Thank
to
you
you.
so much.
Bye.